And you're watching the Independence Day edition of the AM show. And this morning we're joined by Reverend Dr. Captain Henry Godson Afful, Head Pastor Robert Network of Churches. Good to have him back in the country to join us. And of course, Dr. John Osae-Kwapong, Director Quality Assurance and Institutional Effectiveness at Ashesi University, and also a fellow with CDD Ghana. We shall be joined a little later by our guest, Stephen Asamoah-Boateng, former Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, and as well, Kwaku Darko Ankrah, historian and political analyst. Rev Dog, thank you so well. Rev Dog.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Happy holiday, happy Independence Day.
Same to you. I must say you're looking very, very dapper.
Thank you.
I haven't got enough superlatives to describe how beautiful you look in this
Thank you so much. Thank you. Doc, have you been?
Been well, busy but well.
I feel jealous that Ashesi's been, you know.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, the obvious question today, 69 years. First of all, let me take your general appreciation of how we've come so far. 69.
We have come far. I believe that we have channeled our resources, our energies to try and address the key social, economic, political issues that faces the country. I believe we've made progress, but I also believe we do face some challenges. And for me, governing and keeping a country on track is a continuum. It's not a one-time done deal that we had all of these issues resolved. But society is dynamic, and as society grows, as the population changes, different issues emerge, new challenges confront not just a given country, but also new challenges arise that confronts the world in general. And so, as a country, we continue to make sure that we can adapt and we can confront some of these challenges head on. One of the key things that for me I would highlight in our 69-year journey is if I look at the period between 1966 and 1981, which for me was a bit of a politically turbulent time, 5 military coups within that space of time, 2 failed attempts at multi-party democracy. Then you transition to a period of about 11 years of military rule. That brought us some political stability, but also did not give us the kind of democratic freedoms that we wanted. That you would have a better appreciation of the last 33 years of our 69-year journey, where we've made some good efforts at having an uninterrupted multi-party democracy. Yes, it still has its challenges, but that's what a moment like this calls us to do, to reflect, to take stock, and begin to think about how we can continue to grow and make even greater strides as a country.
Sounds to me that you're quite impressed as a country.
I mean, we've done some good things. If I didn't think well enough of Ghana, I wouldn't be back trying to also sort of make my contribution in the education space, which is where I built experience over the last 30 years in another country. Okay. So are we perfect? No. We've made some good strides. Do we still have some major social economic challenges that we need to address? Definitely. But I am one of those hopeful, optimistic people that we will get there someday.
Okay. I mean, Doc, Rev, for the purpose of this conversation, forgive me when I just address you as Rev sometimes, address you as Captain sometime, and also address you as Doctor sometimes. I'm going to be just using them interchangeably. But it'll be the same question for you, though. Nearly 7 decades. And one important question everybody, those who are watching us today at home, those who are streaming live, both home and abroad, would ask, nearly 7 decades, how far we have come? Are you impressed? How was your assessment so far?
Thank you very much, Emifa. And once again, great show as always. I've been monitoring and watching, and it's always a great delight. I mean, what comes into my mind immediately is if you want to measure progress over time, the key thing that you have to ask yourself, what are you comparing with? And sometimes when you draw those comparative analysis, that brings into focus your achievement in terms of how well you've done. So if we look at some of the countries that we sort of started off with, if we go to the East and then look at some of the countries like Singapore, Malaysia, and all of that, you look at that and say, maybe we haven't done as well as. If you look probably within the sub-Saharan African zone and within our West African nations and compatriot, you go to Togo, you go to even Nigeria and some of the other countries which had their independence within that period, especially around the 1960s, like Nigeria and all of that, then you would say that Ghana has done quite well. So that comparison is very, very key. But certainly I would like to push myself a bit in that comparative study and look at some of the other countries like the Singapores and the Malaysias. What have they done to get to where they are? And then you realize that some of them have had stability, a certain level of degree of stability in the area of leadership. And we talk about leadership as a very key ingredient for any nation or any organization to develop. And already, as my brothers alluded to, if you look at 1957, coming down to 1966, within that period, we had Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We saw the accelerated progress and development, albeit in recent times, we've been talking about some of the political upheavals and all of the stuff that went on. And then suddenly in 66, we have the first military government taking over. Unfortunately, 69, we go into the Second Republic, and then 72 again, it's interrupted, 78, another interruption, and then 79, albeit all military, going down into 81 again to 92. We've got the Fourth Republic, and in terms of our democratic credentials, we've done very well. We've become a beacon of hope within the sub-region. However, I dare to say that Ghana could have done better. And looking at where we are now, once again, compare that with some of the nations that used to look up to us, I think there is still some way to go.
Right. Thank you, Doc. I'll come to you, Kwaku, and thank you for joining us. Happy Independence Day to you.
Thank you.
Do you feel the real independence, though?
Really, for now, we will say there's some element of degree of freedom.
Okay.
And there's also that freedom that we are capable to ensure that we will kind of infuse in the people the idea of also exposing their talent. When we talk about independence, what we should gain from it, have we actually developed our people, their resources, that human development, that we should ensure that their functional capabilities are easily released for national development. For me, as a young man, if I look at the trajectory of our history, and my colleagues have actually spoken ad nauseum about some of the things we're supposed to have done, whether by this time we should have been where, let's say, Malaysia is, and then as a comparative analysis from where Lee Kuan Yew came to meet Nkrumah back in the day, the idea of joining together to see how these two countries could move forward. He's talked about the stability that Malaysia enjoyed and also the military departures that we have in our country. For me, what we have not done well actually is that what I would call sustenance or continuation of policies. What we have had over the years is the lack of the continuation of the policies that other governments have actually rolled out. So, for instance, we take Nkrumah's policies, those 7-year development plans and so on. When he was overthrown in 66, the military government, as a way of trying to take a detour from what Nkrumah did, and also to show that they can also show what they are capable of doing, did not go back to see what Nkrumah had them wrong and how they can even find a way of find solutions to some of those things to bring that sort of economic advantages that we would have gleaned from that policies. So they came out with new ones. some of the factories that have collapsed or were not performing at that time, instead of finding solution to those factories the way we should go. We didn't do that. We just left it. We came out with the new policies. Wuzia came in. He was also overthrown. What Wuzia started, rural development, all the ideas that he had in terms of housing and so on, it was also truncated. Achampong came with his own policies. And then Akufu, then we have Liban's government. It didn't also take long. So all we have had is sort of inquired form of ruin of our economic policies. We have not had full realization of the policies that we roll out. And this has really affected the developmental trajectory of this country.
Okay. I mean, Doc, you can hear Kwaku say that there's one thing that I get from Kwaku's submission, and even all of you, sustainability, continuity of projects, which is one of the hallmarks if a country really wants to develop. But let's remind ourselves, at independence, really, what was the vision that we had at independence? And at least how much of that vision have we realized, first of all, before we look at where we failed, what we're supposed to maintain, and what we're supposed to take out? I mean, we watched videos, we've heard stories of how Nkrumah declared independence, but did he have a vision? What was his vision really? What was the plan really? Beyond the 7-year plan that Kwaku has introduced, how much of that vision did we even realize?
So you would notice that, at least if, you know, from what we've learned from history, the videos we've seen, the policies in the immediate post-independent years, that there was this vision of developing the country, not just economic-wise, but also ensuring that we build the kind of political institutions that would be able to enable the country manage its affairs. The state was quite ambitious, you know, its industrialization plans, the building of all kinds of factories as the engine of economic growth, and all of those things. So I do believe that there was that vision of ensuring that we will develop, and we will develop rapidly, and that the state would take, or the state would play a big role in spurring that development, which drove some of the initial investments that, you know, the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah wanted to make, you know, to get us there. But as Kwaku would say, I believe one of the things we don't do well as a nation is that, and as a professor of mine from undergrad would say, success is intergenerational, which means that if person A begins something, he or she may not be able to finish it, but the idea of success is this continuation. Someone starts, someone else continues, someone else finishes it, someone else expands it, retools it, things like that. But I think we've, as Kwaku nicely laid out, we've approached development as I need to be remembered for having done X. And therefore, we do not see continuation even as a badge of honor, right? So someone starts something, and even if it's an idea worthy of emulation, because you also want your own idea to be associated with your own quote-unquote achievements, we don't end up having that continuity.
Okay. Rev, I mean, because he's introduced the idea of you want your own idea, you are likely not to continue what somebody had started. But I dare ask the Reverend, is that not human nature? Isn't it innate to want to have something for yourself? And whilst you're answering that question, I also want to know whether or not Nkrumah was quite overly ambitious.
To be honest with you, I think I remembered listening to Dr. K.B. Asante, and he says, Kwame Nkrumah wanted things done yesterday, not today. Kwame Nkrumah wanted things done yesterday. Ambitious, certainly yes. And I was at a point where Ghana had the resources. So if you look at the population ratio vis-a-vis the resources and everything, per capita income, the macroeconomic indicators were very good because we inherited a very healthy economy from the colonial masters. So rightly so. I mean, the drive that Kwame Nkrumah had was overly very, very ambitious, but rightly so. It was a drive to heavily industrialize Ghana. And that's what gave birth to Tema, as you can see, the ports, VRA in its inception, all of that, which is great. Even across the military, he wanted to see Ghanaians at the helm of affairs and doing things, which was quite good. Where I just want to add in as well is that unfortunately Ghana is where we are because we've not had a sustainable development plan which should cut across those generations. So a solid transgenerational development plan. And I think that is what I dare to say. If Ghana needs to go forward, we need to have a solid developmental plan. I would say, look, and I'll be very bold to say this, let's abolish all the political manifestos from different political parties, cross-party come together, and let's build consensus, have a one solid development plan. If it is 40 years, 50 years, every political party comes in and then they continue the same thing. I must give credit to our current president, and I dove my hat out to him. I'm not going to, be overly complimentary, but this is the fact. I think in my own city in Takoradi, I've gone to Takoradi a few times after he's come in within a 1 year, and a lot of the things that were started by the previous administration, I can see that things are going on. I can see some of the projects have been allowed to carry on, which is good. Whereas sometimes in previous past, we've not quite kind of seen that. Again, I remember when President Mills was also there. President Kufuor started some projects. President Mills allowed that to continue. He brought President Kufuor in, like the N1, and they jointly commissioned that. And those are the kinds of things that we need to see. If one party starts something and it's a good thing, let it continue. Let it see it through to the fullest conclusion. It's not about who takes the credit. It's about Ghana taking the glory.
Well, but it's not in it. This is back to my question. If I was president today, because I like to think that development plan that we're talking about exists quite inconspicuously, even if it's not an obvious document, right? That you're hoping that we do sustainable developments and all of that. But
and for that, that's why we're saying it should be cross-party. I mean, if we all come together and have, like even what we do with the New Year's school and all of that, if we come together and we have a mandate as a nation, 50-year development plan, nobody puts their name to it to say it is me, it is Ghana. Because we've come together, we built consensus, it's cross-party, it's across institutions, it's across organizations, right? And we've built it together. We own it as a nation, and no one person can take the glory. It is Ghana that must benefit for that. Okay,
Kwaku, so it's interesting how just when the conversation about renaming the airport from Kotoka International Airport to Accra International Airport, it brought to the fore what coups have done to us as a country. You'd hear some people say that, no, don't take the name, because even at that period, though coups were not accepted, Kotoka had done some things that people were happy. In fact, you will confirm to me that history says that at the time of the coup, there were people in this country that jubilated. Is this true?
Yes.
They did,
yes, so even today, if there is a coup, people will jubilate.
You don't say?
Yes, because at the end of the day, opposition often is looking for opportunity to come back to power. So in as much as for where we have come today, the consensus, that sort of elite consensus has been achieved between both parties that, hey, we know that after every 4 years there is an election. So there's no need to interrupt the system. Let it roll out. If the person is not performing well, he will be removed. But in Nkrumah's time, most of these things have come as a result of the move towards the one-party state idea. When he mooted and the referendum came in, the opposition saw no any other opportunity of getting the power that they desire. And so therefore, when the coup came, for those who had no opportunity of getting to power, it was an opportune time for them. Hence, they describe it as a liberation of the country. But not so much to the other side, who were also mooting the idea. For me, I don't look at history with, when you are analyzing history, with contemporary eyes, you will be wrong. You look at history as it happened, the event that culminated into it, and you analyze it per that period. And if you look at comparatively, also those who overthrew Nkrumah, the very reasons for which they actually mooted the idea to overthrow Nkrumah, i.e. PDA, Preventive Detention Act, which they accuse Nkrumah of bringing and doesn't give opportunity of people to have legal access before they are thrown into prison. They also came up to something like Protective Custody Decree, PCD, which they were also throwing people into prison the same way as PDA. And you talk about opportunity for political representation and participation. If you look at the 1969 Constitution itself, the Constitution also banned CPP and some of the operatives as well as individuals who have been founded to be culpable of certain offenses under some of the Committee of Inquiries, which was about 49 of them severally, which was to investigate into the private and public life of Nkrumah and some of his ministers. So in some of these committees...
Why was there the need to investigate his private and public life?
Because they want to find debt. It is very... in fact, if you add all the committees, about 79, the committees in general, from Com Committee, Olendu Committee, I can mention the Sowa Committee, several of them. All these committees were put out, and then at the end of the day, when individuals are found culpable, you cannot go to court to even go and have an access to appeal to it. And so it even affected certain individuals when 69 elections were called. So someone like C.K. Tedem, for instance, who have actually cross-carpeted from CPP to Progress Party, when he won at the Katsina and Ankara election, because he was a former member of CPP, his opponent, who was in the now, one A. Lugutero, for instance, sent him to court that he was a member of CPP and certain committee report found him culpable, and he was removed from parliament, and a re-election was conducted. So was at Angulo, where Komla Bulibodema was also afford the parliamentary seat. He too, we found Francis Awono-Rena also going to court and ensuring. So the idea of some of the things that the people were criticizing the Nkrumah regime of doing, we see it being replicated from 66 to 72. Okay. You get the point. So it makes it very, sometimes very difficult to sort of say, then what is even the benefit of removing the man if some of the processes that led to his overthrow was replicated after his overthrow?
I see. But in this case, in a very simple explanation, did coups bring any benefit at all? Or maybe I should use the word military regimes. Did they bring any benefits at all? At all?
Yeah, so we have some of the military regimes that people actually have come to understand that they also performed. For instance, Achampong regime, and when you talk about economic development, some of the infrastructure development, we can talk about Operation Feed Yourself, self-reliance, certain projects like the dam, the Pumu Dam and others that Achampong did. You can say that Achampong really chalks certain macroeconomic development and that sort of thing. So coups normally come not because sometimes people want, sometimes the democratic ideals that are missing within the state can force certain actors to also intervene into the moving system and try to bring it back to the order. So for instance, if you look at Rawlinson's coup of 79, it was to remove the Akufos regime, and then we went back to election. It was an interventory sort of coup d'etat that had not any ambition of trying to become a leadership, which is quite different from what he did in the overthrow of the Newman's administration, which was a clear-cut agenda to rule. And that one is quite different. Okay. So certain coups come as a result of certain missing elements within the democratic ideals. So when it is missing, people want to sort of take away that regime and make sure that we go back to being democratic.
Okay. Rev, I saw that you were shaking your head. I will come to you for your reaction and your response to that. But of course, Mr. Stephen Asamoah-Boateng has joined us. Happy Independence to you, and I like your outfit. So today, are you feeling it? Do you driving here to the studio, do you feel that real essence of the independence that we're celebrating today? Your initial comments on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good morning to everybody. Happy Independence.
Thank you.
Everybody. Yeah, I do. it's an occasion that makes us reflect how, as a country, we have developed and what is the future. That's the whole thing. Independence, yes, you celebrate the past and try and see where you went wrong and plot your way forward. Because 69 is a long time. We're hitting 70 already. We're already a pensioner. No, I am happy for the country, but I am not entirely happy with our development. 69, we should have been way, way ahead of most countries, in Africa in particular. But now you talk about even Africa, even Botswana is way ahead of us. South Africa, we provided everything for them. I mean, I grew up in Kodongo where we used to train the Swapo people in Nobuem and Kodongo mines, and we provided every facility for them. Now they don't even want to know us. They don't even think we provided anything for them. Go to Namibia, South Africa, they don't remember anything. So we have a long way to go, but relatively I am happy because of the peaceful nature of the country.
Okay.
We are blessed in a way that from the beginning, we all the same group of people. Meaning Nkrumah coming in was a collective decision by the UGCC group. Pa Grant, R.S. Blay, J.B. Dankwa, Akwaje, Obeche Bilamte. And when even Nkrumah left and formed the CPP, by the way, all the actors and the activities took place in my hometown.
Really?
Kromanti, no. Sopon. Sopon. Part of Sopon is Kromanti.
They come to
and history, political history and heritage is from Sopon. Yeah. Actually, the reason was that the colonial authorities were in Cape Coast.
Okay.
And you got to be close enough, but not too close for them to catch you. So you stay in Sopon where you can run away.
You have to be close. If
you have to be close, you know what they're up to.
Oh, right.
So Sopon became a base. And so you know what they're up to in Cape Coast. But when they're after you, you can run. When they come to Sopon. That's strategic. So they all grew up there. They all settled there. We have all the historical things there. But as I said, we all grew from even Nkrumah when he set his own CPP with the Krobwe and the rest. They took part of the UGCC with them. I mean, maybe people don't know that.
The CYO.
Exactly, CYO was, and even J.H. Mensah. J.H. Mensah was the architect of the 7-year development plan of Nkrumah. And he became MPP, Dankwa Busia Domo Group.
Did he carry the 7-year plan with him? Or he left it behind?
Well, he gave it to Nkrumah, but of course the coup terminated all that.
Okay.
And if you look at our own Victor Usu, who was seen as a center-right and extremist in some circles, which I disagree. He's my godfather. He's my godfather. He trained me. And he came from the CPP. Yeah. He came from the CPP. So the point is that we are all the same people. Nkrumah started pulling all of us together, but along the way, some things went wrong. And somehow he also became a bit paranoid and began to pick up his own group of people who helped him in the past, including Akwaje and Bedema. Afro Bede was Nkrumah's everything. To be frank with you, when Nkrumah was picked up after the 28 February riot in Accra, it's not just Nkrumah, the big six. And he was kept, because Nkrumah was a bit sharp. They knew it. He was smart. The man had, you know how he left Ghana to UK?
Was he book smart or street smart? What would you say?
Both.
Both.
Nkrumah somehow was way ahead of his group. And he could think and look ahead.
Okay.
But he and it's good, but he also lost the group behind him. When you are too smart, sometimes...
You went too faster?
Yeah, you're too fast. And so your group detached, and that's what happened.
Okay. When I go around the table and I come back to you, I'll be big on what you describe as something went wrong. And I see that you have just started going there. But what have we been doing consistently wrong? Doc, when I come to you, we'll go back to what Afrobarometer said. And I'm taking a cue from Kwaku. I'll come to Rev. I want Rev to respond to what Kwaku said about have military regimes done anything for us at all? when I come to you, Afrobarometer 2022, if you recall, said at least 40% of Ghanaians would prefer military regime. Then sharply it increased to a little over 50 in 2024 that they would prefer military regime. So in an attempt to want to know whether military regimes have done something for us, I want Rev to respond. Then will you speak to that data and why we arrived at that data? Rev.
Thanks so much. So I speak as someone who I'm fortunate enough to be military. As you know.
How did I forget that? Yes, Captain. Yes.
And as a son has trained army officer, I can tell you this, that you're not, military is not trained to, that's when you're in uniform, to govern and to rule over a nation. All right? You have your duty. Yours is to defend the sovereign integrity of the nation. And that's about it. So for me, what the military coups over the years have done in Ghana was just to offer a temporal relief, okay, but left us with permanent scars.
That's interesting.
So it's just like taking morphine to sort of soothe or try and obliterate your pain. It doesn't actually abort the pain. It just gives you a temporal reprieve from what is actually happening, but then it leaves you with permanent scars. And today, we're still dealing with some of those scars. And I dare to say, look back to 79 and just think back. Those generals that were killed, was it justified? I know my brother talked about history. You have to look at it contextually within the period, why it happened at the time. And the reaction of the people, even though some people said, let the blood flow. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, we look back and it was totally wrong. Even people that participated in that, even people that were members of the AFRC on record have come to condemn it. So you look at it, it did not really offer us the permanent solution. We talk about one of the successful military regimes back in the day, which people hardly talk about. It's a Champon regime from 72, January 72 to 78. But the first, let's say, the first 2 years was solid, was great. I mean, Champon built, was able to get involved with other dams. I think all of that. He did all these stuff. And then he was able to also get us some kind of economic stability, even though he went on the Yentua mantra, all right, which certainly, Yentua means he said he would not service those foreign loans. So Yentua.
IMF bank loan.
Operation Yentua, all right.
But just not to interrupt you, but you also know that most of the programs of Achampo in the early 2 years was Bush's program.
But
he implemented them. Rural development. Was a Bush program.
Exactly. But that's what we're talking about.
He did very good implementation of it.
So you get the downstream housing project.
All these stuff. Again, that's what we say. So sometimes you look at it, it's just robbing Peter to pay Paul and just doing musical chairs. But at least he was smart to pick the right policies and then continue
and move with it.
And he had very good success in the first 2 years. Actually, if Achampon, after the first 2 years, had decided to resign from the military and then return Ghana to democratic rule, and he stood for election without...
He would have held him.
He would have held him.
He would have won?
Exactly.
Oh, he would have held him.
He would have won. But unfortunately, he did not leave when his ovation is at the loudest. And that's why I dare to say this. I know we'll come to the other bit as well, but our leaders must be able to read a room. Must be able to read a room. I know at the moment we're talking about third term. For the people have started talking about it. I mean, it's still very early days. Read a room, leave when your ovation is at the loudest. But I am just going to be very emphatic on saying this, that if there's anyone clamoring for a coup, people are looking at Traore and all of that. It's just a temporary relief. You cannot get anything with military dictatorship and things like that.
Is it because of the way they're trained?
I mean, military, you're trained to kill. Seriously, even those of us...
Please, can you change his position?
No, seriously.
That's the truth.
No, that's the truth. I mean, I would like
they don't discuss. They're not here to argue with you. I understand you.
been
they come at the last minute. Sorry to interrupt you again. Last minute, and this is to stop what nonsense is going on, and then restore it back to the normal situation.
Okay.
That's why he said it's a temporary solution.
It's a temporary solution.
So if you call for it, you don't know what you're talking about.
Interested. Well, then the 51% of you who have appetite, you're nursing the appetite for military regime. Let's put some understanding to the data, Doc. That Afrobarometer, I recall when I had to do that headline in the news, I said, okay, wow, the people in this country that are having appetite, that we must be doing something so wrong to want to nurse the idea of military regime.
So I think we need a little careful unpacking of what Ghanaians have expressed in the Afrobarometer survey. So the question about the military, right? So the first one I would mention is, it specifically says, should the military intervene in the event that leaders abuse power?
Okay.
So it's very conditional, right? That
the research question was important.
Yes. So if they abuse power, should there be an intervention? And you're correct. In between those two rounds of the Afrobarometer survey, 9 and 10, we saw an increase in the number of Ghanaians who said yes to that. But you also have to look at a subsequent question that was asked in another round, which said, in the event that there is a military intervention, what should happen? Most Ghanaians still say, whether immediately or over time, we should return to civilian rule. So that's the second dimension to this complicated issue. The third one is, the other question that is also asked is, do you approve or disapprove of military rule? We've seen that decline from about 80-something% to 68%. But for me, for 7 out of 10 Ghanaians to still disapprove of military rule, it's a good enough threshold for me. The last two things I would add is, when we are asked, about support for democracy, even in the most recent survey, 2024, 73% of Ghanaians in AB still said democracy is preferable to any other form of government. And lastly, even among those who express dissatisfaction with the way democracy is working, still say democracy is preferable to any other form of government. So for me, if you ask me, my argument will be that Ghanaians have made their peace with democracy. What we've not made our peace with is the way it is working. And that's even in Afrobarometer years where the level of satisfaction has dipped and has been very low, preference for democracy is still high. So yes, we do sometimes see this softening a bit in terms of our attitudes towards military regimes. But when you put it all together, in the event that, God forbid, it happens, Ghanaians still say, let's return to civilian rule. They still say democracy is preferable to any other form of government. And even when they are dissatisfied with the way democracy is working, they still say democracy is preferable to any other form of government. So it's a little more nuanced that requires some unpacking to sort of put it all together, this tension that Ghanaians hold in their minds about democracy and non-democratic alternatives.
Which this corroborates with what Asamoah-Boateng and Rev as well is saying here, that, well, it's the military is trained to just end the nonsense and then take what belongs to you back to where it's supposed to be. Mr. Asamoah, I'll come to you, but just a bit of nostalgic feeling. I like to put an image to the things that I read and hear. So when Nkrumah died, how did we hear it as a country? At the time, how did the message come to Ghana? How did we know about it?
When he died? Or,
yes.
Or when he was overthrown?
Both. When he was overthrown, I don't know.
I was a young man, a young boy, actually. I think I was about 6, 7 when...
You don't look it.
I can confess, I'm 68. I'm 67, going to 68.
Oh, Ghana is just a year older.
That was a common thing for young people, young panya.
Okay.
Nkrumah is young panya. Yeah. We loved Nkrumah. Although my house was divided. My mom is a CPP, a typical Fanti, and Nkrumah was seen as a coastal Fanti. But we all, Fantis identify with Nkrumah. But Dad and Ashanti says, I'm actually Ubinu. Nkrumah comes and cry and you are following him. Nkrumah can put the white handkerchief and cry on the platform. Instead of talking, he'll be crying.
Really?
What's wrong with you? So, JB Dankwa, Ghana.
Very charismatic.
It's very charismatic, and people, especially the Makola women, Nkrumah love them. Anyway, so I knew the young pioneer, and unfortunately, Nkrumah sort of went overboard, and at some point, a young pioneer was seen as a spy of his own home, or the home. Children were not reporting, but kids, they go to school and teachers ask them something, and, oh, my mom was insulting Nkrumah, or my dad, or if you're not careful, they're picked up. So there was fear at some point. And so, and also, especially with his departing with Bedema fought for him to win an election. He was in prison, and Bedema did all the campaign.
Well, how did this love romance between Bedema and him start?
Bedema was in Nkrumah. He could have stood himself. I mean, Nkrumah came, he was in prison, beat even Obeche Bilamte, who in Accra Central.
I heard so.
Who was a native of Accra Central. And Bedema from Volta beat Nkrumah on his behalf.
Wow.
So the colonial master had no choice than to release Nkrumah to come and head the government. And for them to part company, very bitter. It was like Nkrumah is even attacking his own people. Somebody like Akwaje, who recommended his coming to Ghana from Islington. That's where he was, with the socialist group. And Akwaje became a minister, and Nkrumah, but then he and Akwaje also parted company. And then he tackled the chiefs. Then he went after the chiefs. You run and leave your sandals behind. Very famous, infamous, not famous, very infamous statement. You the chiefs, you tackle me, you run and leave your sandals behind.
Which means that you can't be chief anymore.
Exactly. And before the white man came, the chiefs were they were our fathers and all that. So the chiefs also ganged up against him. Oforiata, Chebi, the Asante, Otumfo. And so Nkrumah had amassed a bit of opposition behind him, quietly, even within his own group. So the coup even was engineered partly by his own group, Harley. He was the IGP, wasn't he?
Yes, I think.
IGP, his own IGP. Even Kotoka was a darling of Nkrumah. Even a Frifa, Lieutenant Afrifa, young man, 32 thereabout. Nkrumah even gave him an award at some point. So he was at that, but they took over. And that day, I was a young man in Konongo. I remember Afrifa at that time. I moved troops from, I think, Kumasi or somewhere, and we saw troops of vehicles moving. In Konongo, we had the only story building in Konongo, so we could see them. And after the event, the joy and the euphoria in Ghana was incredible.
Wow.
Incredible. But after that, I think there was a bit of a regret. There was a bit of regret, because I think the country then realized we're going too far. But then they stuck with the NLC because they also quickly prepared for the election. See, that is what you were saying. That they come in intervention quickly, and they know that this is a temporary measure. They know.
Okay.
They know.
Okay.
They know. Because they're not trained to run a country. Okay. They're not trained to discuss things with us. They're trained to come in and solve a problem and go back to the barracks.
Okay.
That's
so
why
you
they
say
moved.
that the NLC, the National Liberation Council,
Yes,
you
the
say
National Liberation.
They at least stood in the gap and did a good job.
And they were clever in the beginning because they went for a retired military officer, General Ankrah.
Yeah.
See, so those who took over the power, Kotoka, Frifa, and Harley and Co, they went for a retired general. And he came and stabilized them for a while, although later on they did a reshuffle amongst themselves. So what I'm saying is that the coup was a happy one according to what I saw, and not hearsay. But after, there's a bit of regret because then the coup became like a normal thing. So even NLC, there was an attempted one a year later. That's what Kotoka got killed.
Just a year later.
A year later, General, what's his name? Major Atta.
Yeah, Atta and Yabua.
And Yabua and Co. attempted to take them out. Yes. So it became like we can do it. It's normal. And that is what has come in up to even Rawlings' time. And for Rawlings to take over to 1979, which from what he came in to say when he was being tried, it's about tackling the military, Kalabule, the order, action. And so let the blood flow, though with hindsight was a wrong mantra, but the students loved it.
What did it mean, though?
Kill them.
The old people.
People were chanting on the street.
Yeah.
In fact, one blood.
Oh yeah. In fact, at some point, even anybody over 50, you were target. You are the old man.
That was Akatapori's agenda.
Akatapori. Everybody after 50 killed them.
Wow.
This was Alorga Akatapori. I knew Alorga. He was at UCC. I was at Legon. We knew Alorga. I knew Matiwa Dabuga. I knew Sarkodie. I had carried cocoa for Jerry in 72, later on, after the 79. So we then began to ask questions. Why did he come back? Because the first one, it was understandable in a way.
Yes.
And let me tackle my own SMC's Supreme Military Council, General Kufu and Co. Let the military go back to where you belong. And that is the general belief at that time.
Yep.
So for him to hand over to Lehman, a very nice guy, diplomat, no political understanding, but we put him there. So leave him to run the show. Although he also has his own problem. Because he was a naive in terms of, sorry my use of the word naive, politically naive.
Okay.
He was a bit subject to manipulation by his own group. In fact, the PNP, the People's National Party team, which he brought to government, also undermined him.
Yeah.
There was an accusation of even him...
But you see the consequence of being the nice guy.
Sorry?
The consequences of being the nice guy.
Yes,
diplomatic.
that's the point.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy, but then he was so politically naive that his own base began to undermine him.
Oh, yeah.
There was an allegation that he stole a generator at Temaport. I don't know how a president can steal a generator, but it became headline news. So then the momentum to take him out was there. And so Jerry, but as he said rightly, the second coup was to come and rule. It wasn't to come and
hand over, tidy up things and hand over.
And it was also, and I carry cocoa, so I know the history of it. The Libyan Gaddafi Green Book, Jadamari, or what did they call it? They had a green book about how to rule and run a country. Yeah. Was Rawlins's mantra, a book. He read Sekou Vieira. I mean, I saw him reading Sekou Vieira, Hitler, Third Reich. So you could see he had prepared his mind for ruling. And that was the PNDC.
Okay.
And so that then became a normal thing. And the PNDC early part, there was a series of attempts to take him out. So coup became like, if you can handle it, take him out, take him out. And there was a series of it. We ended up in exile because we were accused, the student leadership, we were the NUS, we were accused of being aligned with the anti-revolutionary group. So I was called the anti-revolutionary bourgeoisie class. So we had to run away to Abidjan. Abidjan, through the bush and save our lives.
By this time you were about how old?
I was 23, young boy.
Did you drive through the bush?
But I was a very, very brave guy.
Did you drive through the bush
or
you walked?
Did we drive? We walked. We took a car from Kumasi to some Bunduku. And then from Bunduku, we walked through the...
But where were you going? What were you thinking?
We just had to leave the country because I was declared persona non grata. Persona non grata, I didn't know the Latin word. I asked and said, you don't exist.
You don't exist. Kwaku, but we're now at the PNDC era. But let's just stay a little bit on Nkrumah as a person. What really are the consequences of a person who is so strong-willed? Then what's the difference between him, his personality, his strong-willedness, and Rawlins's strong-willedness?
So like all the people of the colonial period who were fighting for nationalism, they had an idea of trying to save the country from the colonizers. And I see my seniors were saying colonial masters. I don't like that. Nobody is our master. They were just colonizers. And the whole idea of colonialism is profit-making. Yeah. Okay? They take a colony, try to extract the resources for the development in their own metropolis. So that even when there is sort of even unemployment, they send their people who are not getting jobs to come without even any sort of qualifications. So people, when Nkrumah, for example, they have tasted some sort of, even in terms of racial ideas, when he was in the US, he saw how the African Americans were fighting for their own right and so on, and then coming to London, joining the Pan-Africanist movement there, participating as an organizer in the Manchester Conference of 1945 and so on. So he has honed his skills as an organizer, and it was clear in mind what he intended to achieve when he gains the independence, and that is to form that African personality, which is quite different from what colonial education has created as what we call colonial subjects. For colonial subjects, the colonial authorities have framed the education policy in such a way that you think in a specific way. Everything is so i.e. you go to school, everything is based on liberal education. Science education was quite limited, so people would not think of actually expanding the frontiers of the economy in terms of technology, industrialization, and so on. So we produce more lawyers, we produce more journalists, people who can talk rather than people who can create. The same problem that has been transferred to us till today, okay? We have not changed that much. So in which state people were talking, how can we even push? So when Nkrumah came in, he realized that colonialism didn't do anything that much in terms of our economic development, particularly manufacturing sector and then industrialization. Okay. So that is why he put that industrialization policy, that import substitution economy, where certain things can be done. And so Nkrumah was fair in the mind. And again, you need to also change the mind of the African. So you talk about the African personality. How do you change their mind to believe in themselves, that we are different and we are capable of also doing things without always relying on the white man? So these were things that Nkrumah tried to create. But like he argued about the differences within the CPP itself too were hardcore socialists and then some moderates, as well as people who also have capitalist instincts. And so there was contestation within the CPP, where you have Bodemes, Botio, and Co, who are moderates and more capitalist oriented. So if you look at the building of the Asamoah-Boateng, Bodemes was the one who was sent to Washington to go and liaise because of his capitalistic mind. And you have the World Bank coming in to support as a counterpart funding for the Asamoah project and so on. So it was that within that contestation between hardcore socialists and the capitalists that Bodema and others then became casualties of that fight within the party, and they had to leave. And as he said, if Nkrumah had managed it well, because as for political party, it should be an avenue of people of different divergent views. And if you are able to harness it very well, it is better for the nation. So up till today, we have still not been able to achieve that even within political parties. When people espouse different ideas, then they want to run you out of the party simply because they want people to toe, everybody to toe a specific line. And you have not been able to achieve that. So that is the problem Nkrumah also faced around that time. And also sometimes certain policies are not popular, like the PDA. There were some cables. I did my thesis on, say, agriculture for my master's. And he was the chairman of the Presidential Commission. At that time, that acted as the vice presidency. And there was a contestation about the way the PDA is being applied. Because PDA was Joshua Bing's idea of trying to do away with the bomb throwing, because people were then throwing bomb against Nkrumah. So the policy was to ensure that you don't need to take the person to court to prove. But once they deem that you intend to perform the act, because the British have done so during the World War, they also introduced the PDA there. And that was where Geoffrey Bing was bringing the idea to come and deal with the issues of the bomb throwing. Unfortunately, in our part of the world, if you introduce certain policies, while you sit in Accra, party members in the bushes elsewhere will be using it for their own vendetta against somebody. So somebody is fighting with somebody over cocoa farm. He's a CPP man. You go and rat on the fellow that he intends to overthrow him, and that person will be arrested. So even friends were scared of each other. School students, they were fearful of each other, as he said. So these things, the implementation and how you look at how the policy that has been rolled to run effectively was also not there. Okay. But I would want to, when you look at Rawlinson's too, when he came in, he initially had a good idea, trying to change and so on. But there were elements in it who also thought that there were some people who have been involved in all the coups since 1966, and that if Rawlins will have free ride, those people must be eliminated, and then you will have that opportunity. There were some businessmen who were also involved in some of these coups and they've made money. Then they started targeting the capitalist or the bourgeois group. So you see the Appiah-Minkers, you see those people that appear before the citizen vetting committee. It was deliberately used to target those people. So the
citizen vetting committee, what was their mandate? What were they supposed to do?
They were to do a life audit of the individuals, their businesses and other things that shows that whether they intend to actually overthrow the government or in the past they have committed certain acts. So your business will be interrogated, how you came about with your money. That is why someone like Kwame Safuedu is pharmaceutical company, all of them, Penton Pambros was also brought in. So the businessmen of the period actually were targeted. In fact,
sorry to interrupt you there, but they also, you see, that's why the implementation of a program must be carefully thought through before you start. So yes, he may have thought through, let me try and arrest this situation and maybe the business, how did you get this order? But it went beyond that. To the extent that even if you have 2 toilets in your house, how did you get 2 toilets?
They reduced it to the barest.
They reduced it
including one man, one house and all sorts. So people lost their houses in Taba Enclave. Even my own family has that issue where later we have to fight and get the house back. So some of these things went on excesses. So policy implementation, as he said, is very critical. How do we roll out policy? How do we ensure that that policy is working and it's not working against another individual, but the way the government thought it out and the way it wanted to achieve its achievement? So that becomes problematic. But I'm very also interested in what Doctor said about the Afrobarometer. For instance, that also gives us to also problematize the very problem that you raise. How do we make democracy work? Then that becomes the issue. As a people, how do we make democracy work? If democracy is all about freedom, our ability to express ourselves, and so on, then there is no need for anything.
That's not enough.
Yes, democracy must also be used to feed the people. As Thomas Jefferson said, the ultimate aim of governance is the happiness of the people. At the end of the day, let the government work. Economically, let it work. People in academia, we must do our bit. People in the businesses, they must do their bit. Individuals on the street, the populace, if the government is not doing well, we must say it, irrespective of our ethnicity, political party, and so on, because what is wrong is wrong. And that is the problem as a people we do have. People opening up and saying what is wrong, irrespective. We don't have people coming from their own government, attacking their own government for certain bad policies, because when you say it, people from your party will make sure the president even fire you. So how can we have that self-criticism within the party to do well? So parties normally even go to opposition because of their own inability to do self-introspections.
I want you,
and just to cap that before you move on quickly, and that is something we need to look at going into the future. Remember when I started, I said, democracy and independence help, but how do we move forward? And he's brought a key point. Within the party itself, within MPP and NDC, name the other parties if there are any.
United Party.
Are they there? United Party. Which one is that? I'm joking. Within the parties, we've lost the plot. Democracy is good, but that's the best form of governance because we don't force you independent freedom of expression and all that. But the question within the group, what are the kind of systems you are implementing that would propel us as a nation when you get in power? Training, education. Are we training our people? Look, within the parties. How do you become a minister? Let's even use that to become a minister in your government. If you are, what training have you gone through? What training? Nothing. Maybe student activism. Maybe that's it. But beyond that, what have you gained? So within the party, what are we doing? The MPP has come up with this institute. How it's been, so we must keep, generally, not just MPP, we must keep an eye on the institute. Are they training their people well to assume a government? I have
a question for you when I come back, and just mull over it. Question is, the countries that we compare ourselves to, Singapore in focus, do you see true implementation of democracy? Think about it. Whether or not democracy is a perception or a good tool to achieve development. Or if you look at it, the real thing, if I hear what the traditionalists say, kebiba kebiamemo. Yetimi dibu man pana. I want to know the genuineness of it. Yeah. Or there must be a tad bit of authoritarianism at least. You know, just a hint of it on democracy for us to achieve results. But I want to hear a few responses from you then. And when you're at it, please add what really was the breaking point for Rawlings. Because then we're ushering into democracy, where now we'll look at what the Constitution thought to envisage when they brought the judiciary, legislature, and the executive. But I want us to usher in the Rawlings factor. What was his breaking point after you have reacted to a few things?
Thanks so much, Emefa. I mean, I'm loving the show and the very good debates that is coming up. But I would like to start off on this one by saying that I think that the Rawlings coup itself, even in '79, although within the student population and within the sections of the Ghanaian community looked popular, I dare to say this, that it was also an intervention that Ghana did not need, and the excesses was unnecessary. And I'm going to repeat it. The coup of '79 was an intervention that Ghana did not need, and the excesses was very unnecessary. Why do I say that? September 1979, there was already an election, a democratic election that was slated. And it was timetable, and it was meant to go ahead. So the military government themselves, they were so tired, I believe at a point, they were out of their wit and debt, and they just wanted to get out. So it would have been just natural to allow their time to pass, and that September, we would have been into the Third Republic at the time, okay? And then the intervention, unfortunately, came in. What was the breaking point? You look at, we've talked about some of them, what the ideals were, the probity and accountability, which is meant to, or was meant at the time, to tackle the subject of serious moral decadence, corruption. Have we totally obliterated and been able to take out corruption out of our society? Even to today, that you are the best judge. You answer that question. And I dare to say this, we talk about education. I think sometimes the approach is not just getting strong men out there. Women were being whipped, excuse me to say, on their private part. Ghana was placed into a dark era of coups. And I remember this because I lived in the barracks. I was born in the barracks, lived in the barracks, and I remember this. Going through that period, no Ghanaian would like to ever go through that point again. And for me, there's one thing that we've chalked as a nation, having that stability of the Fourth Republic, which is the bedrock of democracy going forward, is something that we cannot exchange for anything. The dark days must be over and must not be allowed to come back. Look at those days. People had to be shot for taking a loan of 50,000. What are we seeing, unfortunately, nowadays? We need to go back and ask ourselves, has corruption been eradicated? And this is my solution, and I say this. Sometimes it's like we're teaching old dogs new tricks, but it cannot work like that. I tell you, what we need to do as a nation is to put in the curriculum, embedded in the curriculum, what corruption is and what corruption does to this nation. That for every money that is stolen out of the national coffers, that is a cost on the roads. That is the roads that are not done, the railway stations that are not done, the undevelopment that we see, the lack of progress that we see. You go to the hospital the other day, what happened? Somebody, unfortunately, was not admitted, and we don't want to be politicizing this, because of no bed and things like that. In other jurisdictions, you'll be triaged within an ambulance, and treatment starts from home, even before you get there. And for every money that is stolen from the national coffers, somebody's dying for it. Somebody's paying for it. People, even the elite, will still have to travel abroad to go and find treatment. What are we doing to ourselves as a nation? Put the subject of corruption into the curriculum, and let's start teaching our 3-year-olds in the primary school that when you steal your friend's lunch, it is corruption. In secondary school, when we have a table, a food that is meant for all. When I was at this other college in St. John's, I remember a table of, I'm telling you, that's where corruption starts. A food that is meant for 20 people, one person will come and then take the milk and then just pop, small, and then take the bread and the eggs and then carry the bowl, and nobody can talk.
You become the strong man. Everybody comes.
And is that what we are modeling? Go to our universities, the nooks and all of that. Corruption, start from there. They put in the miscellaneous. The what is miscellaneous on the budget is even bigger than the item. You know what? So let's look at corruption. But again, I want to just say this. We need to also honor our heroes. We're talking about 69. For me, next year is 70th, and we need to look at some people must be honored. And even people like a champion, yes, they made intervention, but I said the first 2 years was so powerful, and some of the policies that we've picked up from now, like planting for food and jobs in the previous regime, and things like Nkoko Nkiti and all these stuff that are going on, these are some very good recycled policies from the past, which has worked. And I want to see agric. I want to see schools involved in agriculture. Some of the things that will help us develop. We've got the natural resources, but they are the very things that we sort of demean it. We punish students with weeding, and they think that agric is bad. They think farming is bad. It's punishment. It is not punishment. There are things we need to go into as a nation and visit those issues, and I think that is our path to chart our development forward.
Kwaku has to leave us, so I'm just going to skip and go to him to take his final words. 69 years. Next year we're 70. Your expectations, hopefully someone is listening and we'll take note of it, and then my 3 other guests will stay, we'll continue with the conversation. But don't forget your questions, though. Doug, your question is on democracy. But when I come to you, Mr. Asamoah-Boateng, would be that, do we need democracy in its entirety? Has it yielded result at all? Genuine answer. But Kwaku, please, your final words.
For me, as a way of some comic relief, maybe since St. John's that is tough food in other side, we don't do that.
We had our farm. We had our own farm. We feed ourselves.
You feed yourselves there?
We have enough to eat. In other side, we have nothing to eat, so we don't.
I left some in addition. I know what I'm talking about. House. We used to do that.
The best quiz called my secondary school.
Let me tell you this story.
Not decided. Not St. John's.
Upper six. We used to call it Sewo. Statiscate.
Yeah, we do it.
Yeah, so this guy got 3 eggs. He said, look, I've even got 4. And somebody has not got 1. Not knowing the teacher was following him. He just come here. He started stupid. You got 4. This is where it starts from anyway. That's okay. Boys always be boys.
So what I want to talk about is the idea of a national policy. You know, the other time we started with Senche, consensus and agreement and so on. When they read it, some parties didn't represent. We need to have national consensus where all the political parties will come back again. And this time again, we would need not to do our own policy and send it to IMF and World Bank to go and look at it. As for this one, we are not interested to fund this one, take it out. Then, when it happens like that, then the idea is no longer our own. It now goes back to the Bretton Woods institution to tell us what to do. We need to have our own homegrown idea which suits our environment and how best we can gain from them. So we need to go back to that. The other one is about the role of education in terms of, even if you go to our universities, we don't teach even economic history. All over the world, one of the fundamental things in the United States and UK, economic history is very fundamental. Yeah. That is how you know certain policy outcomes, how they did well or they didn't do well. And so when we have that economic history of our country, we would do very well. The last time someone wrote economic history was Tony Kellick. He did this work way back in the 60s and 70s. No Ghanaian ever took it upon themselves with all the statistics at ISE and other places to even write from where Kellick started. So this old man had to return back to Ghana and rewrite again the second edition, which is in 1910. Before you write, 2010.
Okay.
Sorry, 2010. He had to come and rewrite again. And we still sit in this country. We don't give so much. We don't pay so much.
And it's on the shelves. It's on the shelves.
Yes, all the document, everything is there. We need to tease it out. And you see, UK, Kwaku Darko, who became their exchequer guy, his expertise is in economic history. If you write his book, you talk about how UK over the years, various economic policies, how UK slammed down and they came back and so on. It is a delight to read so stuff, and as a person in the country, you will know that indeed we can go back to our economic policies, learn from our weaknesses, and then proceed forward. The last thing is also about the national cohesion. Irrespective of our political parties, when we come back together as people, we should be able to know that it doesn't matter who is in government. You see, we go and elect. As soon as we elect somebody, we must all come together. Sometimes some people feel, okay, the government shouldn't perform so that you will come. In the same way, if you also count, another person will also sabotage you. We don't need to do that. We all have one idea, and that idea should be Ghana. It is not about NPP, it's not about NDC, it's not about where you come from. We must all come together and put our quota towards national development.
Okay, Kwaku, thank you. So, by the way, what are you having? Do you have a special meal you're having today?
I have not thought of it.
You should think about it. What's your favorite food?
Me. Etzel.
Etzel. Yes. As a fancy.
Fante Confederacy. Cape Coast and Elmina, so.
Okay.
And Cromancy here.
All right. Kwaku, thank you so much for joining us. And unfortunately as well, Rev will also have to take leave of us. Maybe not immediately, but in a few minutes or so we'll release, and then you'd have only me to deal with, Doc, and then and you, the two of you as well with me.
But what was my question? You said
Your question will be that democracy, is it that, do we need it in its entirety? But we must have, and Singapore is in sight. We say that we started together. Are they practicing democracy the way I'm hearing you all envisage it? Does it give real results? Does it? That's the answer I'll come to you for. I just want to go to Doc, and maybe immediately before that, I'm just going to go to my colleague who is at the Jubilee House, just to see what's happening over there in anticipation for the Independence Day celebrations. So stay with me. Let's cross over. Maxwell, if you can hear me, give me updates. Give me the tea. What's happening?
Well, the sound here is quite loud, but you're asking if we have any updates from the Jubilee House, the presidency, where the 69th Independence celebration is taking place. Yes, we have updates for you. In a moment, we'll have the contingent, the security personnel, marching to the center to begin proceedings here at the presidency. We know that the independence celebrations was moved here to the presidency sometime in 2025, I should say. So the new administration started the celebrations here at the presidency. And the reason that they gave at the time was that they wanted to scale back on the celebrations. Previously, it was a rotational celebration, but I remember at a press briefing addressed by the government communications minister, Felix Kwaku Darko, he stated that the rotational celebration in the regional capitals of Ghana was costing Ghana a lot. We're told that the 2023 celebration cost Ghana about 15 million Ghana cedis, and it is believed that the celebration here would reduce the cost of that rotational policy that was instituted by the previous administration. So if you come here today, here at the presidency, all is set. This place is painted in the colors red, yellow, green, of course representing the colors of Ghana. In a short while, we'll be having the arrival of the special dignitaries here at the presidency. The school children are seated, members of the diplomatic corps are also seated, waiting for the proceedings to begin. Now, the special guest of honor for the 69th Independence celebration is the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. And he's been here in Ghana. I think he arrived in Ghana on Tuesday. Yes, and 48 hours ago, he held bilateral meetings with President Mahama. That bilateral meeting culminated in the signing of some memoranda of understanding, MOU, 3 of them were signed. One of them was the extension of a visa waiver to include ordinary passport holders. Now remember that there was a visa waiver agreement between St. Kitts and Nevis and then Ghana. But that visa waiver agreement only applied at the time to diplomatic passport holders and then holders of service passports. Now that waiver agreement has been extended to people who hold ordinary passports. It means holders of ordinary passports can now visit the Caribbean island countries, St. Kitts and Nevis, on holiday, and they don't require a passport. They don't require a visa, I should say, to do that. So he will be the special guest of honor for today's celebration. And among some of the key things that we expect to come up here is President Mahama's presentation of the draft resolution that seeks to describe the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. We expect that conversation would come up here, especially because of the person who is the guest of honor. Now, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis also doubles as the chairman of the regional Caribbean body, CARICOM. And during bilateral talks, during his visit here to the presidency, he stated that Caribbean countries support President Mahama's draft resolution to get the world, the United Nations, to recognize slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. So we expect that conversation to come up here. Of course, also, we expect the president to talk about macroeconomic stability. He gave us an idea of that during the State of the Nations address. In fact, the theme of this year's celebrations, the 69th Independence Day celebration, speaks directly to that, building prosperity and restoring hope. So, of course, issues of macroeconomic stability would come up here. The president is expected to talk about how his government has been able to reduce inflation to a single digit, has been able to cut down on our public debt, has been able to maintain, a stable currency, builds, a strong, currency. So all of these are expected to come up here. But let's speak to some of the dignitaries who are already seated, waiting for the proceedings to begin. We have with us here the director of Diaspora Affairs at the Office of the President, Kwaku Darko Ankrah. Let me speak to him, KOD. Let's speak to him and find out from him his expectations for today's event. KOD, you're welcome to join us.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, it's the 69th Independence celebration. It's not even the 7th yet, but we see a lot of enthusiasm surrounding this year's celebration. I don't know what you make of that.
I mean, there's so much enthusiasm. We're gradually inching into the 70th anniversary. Yesterday I was already having foreshadows of what the 70th anniversary is going to look like. And I believe the planning should start now. But of course, there's so much excitement, celebrating Ghana 69 as it ought to be.
What do you also make of the brand Ghana? It looks the case, a lot of people are now excited about the brand Ghana, happy to say that, yes, I'm Ghanaian. It's let me put it in the Generation Z language. It's not a big flex to be Ghanaian.
It is a very big flex to be Ghanaian. I mean, and I'm speaking from the point of the Director of Diaspora Affairs at the presidency. I'm getting quite a number of people who are not even of African origin, as in historic diasporans, who wants Ghanaian citizenship, because we're having the next conferment on Monday. And I'm like, no, this is exclusively for people of African origin, who were forcefully taken because of slavery. So it's part of the reset agenda. Ghana's looking good out there, and we're all excited about it. We need to guide and guard that intentionally. Yeah.
But finally, in 2026, what should we expect in terms of promoting the brand Ghana? 2026, 2027, 2028, what should we expect?
Well, I mean, we started now. We're doing the citizenship on Monday. Okay. Her Excellency the Vice President is going to steer the affairs of the day, and then after that, as part of our diaspora engagement. We're starting from England. We go to France and go to different parts of the world to, first of all, listen to what they need, as in our family members who are in the diaspora, and also extend it to the historic diaspora, and that's those who were forcefully taken. I always have to explain because people don't understand when we say historic diaspora, those who were forcefully taken because of slavery. We're trying hard to make sure that they come back and invest. We're also focusing on second and third generation diasporas, because that's the present and future. I refuse to just say the future. Yeah. That's the present and the future, and we need to intentionally engage them in nation building. We're also going to initiate something we call Diaspora National Service, where some of these young people will get to experience Ghana, get immersed in our culture, in our system. Maybe a month or two. It's not going to be like the entire duration of a typical national service, but they get to experience Ghana, and whenever they have to think about sharing their knowledge gained from overseas, they'll think Ghana.
Okay. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your day.
Great. Bye. You just heard Kwaku Darko Ankrah, popularly known as KOD. He's the Director of Diaspora Affairs at the Office of the President. We also have here the CEO of the Tree Crop Development Authority, Andy Okra. Let's speak to him and find out from him his expectations ahead of the beginning of the 69th Independence celebrations. Mr. Okra, you're welcome to join us.
Thank you, my brother.
Ghana is 69. What's your assessment? If Ghana were human, good life or bad life? 69 years.
Oh, we have to give thanks to God, and let me take this opportunity to wish your viewers happy 69th anniversary, especially His Excellency the President, for the wonderful work he has done so far. Like you rightly said, we, by the mere fact of seeing good governance and having stability, to even have the 69th anniversary peacefully, shows that Ghana has advanced. Much as we're expecting a lot of improvement, the resetting agenda of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama actually gives hope, and that is what the theme for 69th anniversary is, that building prosperity, restoring hope. So there's hope for the future, and we have seen leadership, visionary leadership that shows that Ghana is advancing, and I believe by the 70th anniversary it will be spectacular.
Okay. Thank you very much for talking to us. So we also have here with us Bafo Kutin Sraman. He is the Breman Hene and the board chairman of the National Ambulance Service. Let's find out from him also what he makes. Ghana, 69 years, a fulfilled life or an unfulfilled one?
Ghana is still growing.
Even at 69?
Yes. We have nations that have been there for over 300 years, practicing their democracy freely. And we are one of the young nations in the world. In 1957, under the leadership of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, we got our independence. And we've been counting from that time, year after year, the age of our country. And we are celebrating the 69th Independence anniversary today under the leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of Ghana. The theme for this year, as I can see, is building prosperity and restoring hope. It tells you straight away that at a certain point in time, things went bad. I mean, it's a very strong word to use, but that's exactly what I can say. And under his leadership, Ghana is picking up again. We thank God, for his intervention. And all Ghanaians seem to be, in agreement with the goals that he has set himself. That is why the party that brought him to power got an overwhelming majority in Parliament. And that is the voice of the people. All right. And we are only hoping and praying that all Ghanaians will come on board and help in the nation-building efforts. The prosperity we are seeking will come only through our cooperation. And that is what I can say. So let us all unite and stand behind him and move ahead. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we just had the Breman Henny. Okay. Yeah, we just had a Breman Henny. Okay, yeah. We just had a Breman Henny. We have 1 minute here to leave this perimeter, I should say. But I have someone here with me who is representing Ghana in the colors, Ramona Tata. She's the West Africa Regional Director of the Oxford Business Group.
Indeed.
Akwaba.
Thank you very much. Medase.
Ah, great. Mr. Medase. Tell me, you're representing, the Ghanaian colors. What do you love about Ghana?
Well, look, I would say that there was a connection even from before I was born to Ghana. Okay. Because if you see a little flag here, I'm Romanian, and Kwame Nkrumah has visited Romania multiple times, and he has died in Romania, unfortunately. So our country has made efforts to heal his illness at the time. So when I got to Ghana, I've learned there was friends of Romania in Kumasi that were watching in the 80s and 90s movies from Romania. But what I love about Ghana is that people are kind to each other.
Thank you.
My prerogative. And look, I would like to say that I've never stayed in a country this long. I lived in 25 countries, and this is the only country where I stayed more than 2 years. And I'm loving it, so that should show something.
Thank you for talking to us.
All the best. Thank you.
So just said Ramona Tata. She's the West Africa Regional Director of the Oxford Business Group. But that'll be all we can bring to you from the inner perimeter of the presidency. I would have to wrap up here at this point. But President Mahama is expected to arrive here shortly, and we'll be bringing you more from this ground.
Definitely take you back there when the president arrived. Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching the AM show. Maxwell Akbakba over there giving us insights what's happening at the inner perimeter of the Jubilee House. But back in studio, my question to Mr. Asamoah-Boateng was that independence. But first of all, let's go to the researcher. He's been working so much on what democracy is. We hear it. I've been learning Amemo. I don't know if that's what it is, but Doc, again, reiterate, what did the Constitution envisage when it says that we are a democratic country? And is that exactly what we are? And is that a tool to real development?
So my nephew, Pakwesi, once asked me, he said, Wafa, do you want democracy or do you want development? And I said, I want democratic development. And that's why I'm a fellow with CDD Ghana. And he just laughed, right? But if you look at the Constitution and in terms of what it envisions, so you would notice that it envisioned, the typical things we see associated with democracy. The guarantee of basic freedoms, the assurance of rule of law, due process, all of those things that one would associate with a democracy was built into the architecture. But you also realize that the Constitution, which I agree with, is that I always say that democracy is not an end. Democracy is a means to an end. My favorite part of the Ghanaian Constitution is Chapter 6, the directive principles of state policy. I always say that even if our political parties never put together a manifesto, they can go to Chapter 6, pick those principles, and develop policies to reflect those principles. I say that to make the point that in addition to the key democratic norms and values that the Constitution envisaged, it also saw democracy as a path to realizing those things stated in the directive principles of state policy. And so in there are economic goals that the state is supposed to, achieve. There are education goals that the state is supposed to work on to achieve. There are health goals, all of those things. And so it is a combination of those two things that I believe those who put together the Fourth Republic Constitution were hoping for us to achieve. Now it's been 69 years of independence, 33 years of the Fourth Republic. Has the democracy given us all of the things that we hope for, we envisage for? No, but does that mean that we should abandon the democratic path or journey? I always say that democracy is like searching for that one true love of your life. You don't try once and stop because you got a broken heart. Right? You have to keep at it and keep trying. And for me, it's always going to be a work in progress. New issues would arise, new challenges would come up, old problems may metamorphose into new ones, and we have to keep at it. The one thing I hope we would guard against is that because we've had 33 years of uninterrupted multi-party democracy, that we don't become complacent, right? That because we've had 9 generally successful elections, 4 of which have resulted in political party turnover, that we don't rest on our oars and think this is a done deal, because it's not. There continues to be issues, challenges, but when all is said and done, for me, the kind of country that we are envisioning, the kind of development that we want, I am hoping that we would continue to embrace democracy as the tool. Yes, we may have to make democracy fit our context. The late Professor Kwame Gyekye had one of the most beautiful definitions of democracy, right? He's like, yes, it's all of the things that we hear democracy as, government of the people, for the people, by the people. But he expanded that definition to say that, but think about it, it also has to reflect our historical, cultural, our own value system, and it has to be a system of government that we are prepared to defend till the very end. And he has a very nice chapter on, the politics of how you constitute, a democracy. And so, yes, we would always have to continue working on it, fine-tune it, let it fit our circumstances, and let it ultimately deliver the socio-economic development outcomes that Ghanaians are looking forward to.
Well, thank you for putting even better perspective to it. Let me just shorten and say honorable. Just yesterday, I recalled that the Speaker of Parliament was saying that we're quite notorious for comparing countries. Every country is quite different. But every time we have conversations around this table and many other tables, you realize that there's a bit of comparison. And I'm back to Singapore because I am told and very much aware that at the time we started together, but look at where Singapore is. What benefits has democracy brought to us? Democratic development, as Doc has said. Is it the only tool, or should we give a little bit of power to an individual who can superintend? And let me situate it culturally at home. We're made to believe that we all have a say, but the final say rests with our father, the man of the house.
We've gone past that stage.
We have, huh?
If you give power to one person, we will all go after him. We'll get him out within seconds.
Yeah.
Human beings naturally want to have a say.
Yeah.
And so democracy gives us that opportunity to do that, freedom of expression and all that. So we cannot suppress that and say, I'll give power to one person. We'll go after him.
What about
Before you realize we've getting rid of him a long time ago.
What about a bit of it?
I'm not very fan of an autocratic leader. I'm not. I mean, I don't want to go into some details, but I've been in the NPP before, but I got a voice. I served President Kufuor well, but when you come to the house and me and him are arguing, you'll be shocked. He's my president. We go direct. I said, Mr. President, you're wrong. I'm the president. When he wants you bully or he wants me to keep quiet, I am the president. Otherwise, let me ask you a question. Whose name and picture did we take to for this? And then it means shut up. And I disagree sometimes. But if we go there, we are dead. We've passed the Singapore, that early part. We missed the boat. In fact, Jerry John Rawlings may well have been if he was groomed and had a clear idea what he wanted. He was eager to do something, but didn't have a plan. And so I was there in the early part of the PNDC carrying cocoa, and there was no plan. I mean, there was not even an office. There was a tent. where the tent was moved every day or 2 days from one side. Like we're copying what Libya Gaddafi used to do. So one day you go in 5 battalion, the tent is there. The next day is moved to Reki. Because somebody may overthrow him. So the strong character dictator, I don't like it. What we needed to do, and we may have to go back, and he expressed the democracy definition. It's not just about the power of the people and by the people and of the... No, it goes beyond that. It's your culture. Have you embedded it into your democracy? Your history, have you done that? We seem to have just copied it blindly. It's the talking part, we've taken that. Election part, we've taken that. Even there, we have added some few bad nuts to it. Elections is now being conducted as if we're sharing money. We're giving goodies. And so now if you don't have it, you dare not come in. Because then those who don't have it, then they're not heard. And that is dangerous. There are those who want to help and may be able to get us where we want to get to, economic development and economic history, but they are not allowed to because you don't have the resources to do that. And it's in both parties, MPP and DC, it's like you're sharing. And if you keep on sharing now, there will be a time when you put a ballot box there, nobody will go and vote. Because if you give it to your delegates, if you are giving money to your delegates, and I'm an ordinary voter, an election card, you want me to go and vote, where's my share? Give me my share before I go. And if at the last election, I was going around, bring mine. I mean, they saw you sharing it at your primaries, and they are not a delegate, so I don't want them generally to follow you. What's my portion? So we need to stop and go back and how do we embed our culture and our values into the Kabimami Nkebi? Kabimami Nkebi has gone talk and let me talk. But it's not like that. Yeah. We've passed that stage. It's the survival of the individual, their education, their health, their ease of life, and making life comfortable. Not basically give me food to eat, but make the policies that I can survive, knowing that the opportunity exists. So if we don't go that, and we begin to think that it is by me in government, I can do what I like, then you are wrong. So what I'm advocating is that let's go back to the culture. How did we take democracy from a white man, and did we understand our historical antecedent? The chiefs, for instance, I've been a minister for chieftaincy and religious affairs, and they are marginalized. Some people say, oh, we know some chiefs are also, but yes, there's badness in every, but generally the chieftaincy institution, we know its worth. We've protected in our constitution. So let's take the good out of it and make sure they are embedded in it. We've created a National House of Chiefs, but tell me, what did we give them, even for their own administration? Nothing. Nothing. So we need to find a way and engage the chiefs at even the local level. We put them in the local assembly system, but they are marginalized. The political parties take over. And so the chiefs are given some little thing, come in and go back. But they must be embedded into the thing. Then we also mentioned the historical, the economic history part, which must be part of our education system. We go to school, we learn all about history. And what history? Greek history, ancient Spartans and Athenians. What do I need that for? But our own history, how do we develop as a country? How do we go beyond the kind of importation that we take from our colonial masters, and we take raw materials to them, and it doesn't fetch much. They dictate how much they pay us on our cocoa, our gold, and we are always struggling, and we are tracking the prices of commodities. And why do you have to track the price of the commodities? When they're bringing watches to us, these watches, you know how much it costs. But cocoa, bag of cocoa,
we're tracking.
Big thing, we put them in the shape, and it only costs.
Oh dear.
We need to have this economic, historical perspective of our education and civic responsibility. You talked about comparison to Singapore. In Singapore and in the Asian countries, corruption is death. If you are caught, you yourself you take your life. Because if you don't and you are caught,
we'll take it for you.
We'll take it for you. So you are scared. And I remember when I was information minister in Kufuor's time, I said it about 3 times. And I said, look, if we just take it as normal and somebody has taken money, so let him have it, and there will be kululu and the backhands and people, nothing happens. Then people say, nothing happened to him. So you want to become a government official, I also take some. It's become embedded.
But where did it start? Is it political financing? I'm told, I've heard stories of how people get into politics and they're sponsored and they're helped. And so when they get there, they have to now service their debts. And so...
Go back to the education system again. We are not trained to be responsible citizens. So it's a question of survival.
Yeah.
It's circumstances, so they force their way into the political realm, and it's there, so they take. But it's not yours, it's for the people. You are managing it. But if you were trained properly, you will never touch it. You never touch it. I mean, there are instances I've gone to, I was minister, I won't name names, but there are some people come and bring me, so put an envelope there, and I thought, what's that for? Oh, I said, hey. Me and you, have we done any business for you to bring this to me? If it's a business and you bring in my portion, I can understand. Yeah. But no business. But for the and then they will go and tell you, hey, but wait, you had you. Because my job is to do the policy area and also ease the problem for you as a businessman and go and do your business. I'm not a businessman. I don't understand even how money works. Yeah, there's little to for me to survive. I'm okay. I'm not struggling. But I don't have to be like selfish, looking for something. That's not me. It's not my job.
If you had the chance to add something or take something away from the Constitution, I mean, the Constitution Review Committee suggested a few things. I don't know if you've had access to what they have suggested so far. But, well, on your screen now, you can see the 2 former presidents. Former President John Osae-Kwapong and as well former President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who have made it successfully to the celebration of the 69th Independence Day. We actually got a message from former President John Osae-Kwapong, and we've been airing it all through, wishing us a happy independence and reiterating what you've said. There's so much more that we can do as a country. But back to our Constitution. If you had the power right now, what would you change in there? At least
if I had the
knowing
power,
that development is in
we have handed over everything to one man. Again, the Constitution of the Republic gives everything to the president. Appointments, decisions. Everybody's scared of him. Everybody wants favors from him. So they will sing his praises. It won't be tied you if you criticize the president. The very person, your friend will go and say, he doesn't like you, just because he wants some favor from the president. There's too much power centered at Rwanda. And we were so confused in the constitutional framework when we were doing it. We didn't know whether to go the American way or the English way. So we had a bit of the Westminster type parliament, but then we also arranged the seats in a way that is not Westminster type, it's the French type, where it's a round house. Westminster type is you and me. You are here, I'm here. So we avoided that, and we got confused. And at some point, the 4-year term doesn't look like it's enough. And so when you come in, you take 1 year to fill your appointments, and everybody's lobbying, nobody's working. And then the opposition, too, as soon as they go, they start campaigning. Yeah. So there's no time for you to even settle. We are always in a campaign mood. So so we got to revisit the Constitution, and I've spoken to Kwesi Prempeh. Kwesi is my brother. We came from Lagos at the same time. Me, Kwesi, Kukraza, Ata Kennedy, Asamoah-Boateng, Damboche. Basically, at this level of my development, this is our time. we need to exert some influence on our Constitution. And I'm talking to Kwesi, and I see he's put a lot of things there. People sometimes don't understand Kwesi, but he's a straightforward guy. He doesn't want benefit from anything. Because he survives on his own. He doesn't need anything from government. So, but the point I'm making is that we need to be able to say, look, too much power with one man. So let's devolve it. The decentralization program is good, but it goes with money. If you are not decentralizing the resources, then he sits there, he's waiting for you. Assemblies are sitting there, they can't make their own money. They don't even collect their own taxes. They are looking for central government. This is the assembly common fund. Until it comes, the assembly doesn't work. Why do we do that? So we need a lot more education, both our young generational stage, and also even now. We need, who is the guy going there as a DCMC? What kind of education and build-up has he got? Not going to fold his hand, look at Accra. Otherwise, we are stuck. So there's a lot of changes we have to. Then also the political cycle, the 4-year cycle. Constitutionally, we must put something in there. That after general election, stop the campaigning. Stop the campaigning. It's time to run the country. Opposition, do your opposition work. And in fact, the government, find a way to even share some basic information with opposition. I work for the Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, in the UK. At some point, we share information with the Labour Party. Especially when it's getting to a general election, because you never know the election can kick you out.
Yeah.
And if they kick you out, you have kept everything on your chest, and you go, the opposition come, they are now going to fish for what went wrong, and then the first thing they do is they destroyed everything, I'm starting from scratch. In fact, I have debt. They don't talk about the reserves or the resources you give them. That one, they shelve it. But then they say there's too much debt. We can't. But then you see them buying brand new cars. So where did you get the money from?
I wonder. Question for the gods.
So there's this kind of deceptive attitude, I would say, by politicians in a way. So the constitution must be clear. That look, after the election, everybody keep quiet. Keep quiet. Let the government run for a while. Elections will come maybe a year before
the general elections.
So that time, please, the Senate and the political parties, start training your people. Try educating them. Those who are potentially DCs or MCs or potential ministers, you can identify them. Not necessarily say you'll be a future, but you got a group of young people, women and girls, who you can train.
Yeah.
So that by the time they are ready, they know the issues involved in the country, what they are supposed to do. Otherwise, we leave them and it's become a lobbying. You get a position, you go there, you don't know have a clue what you are supposed to do. You just wait for the central government.
Just on your screen as well is the arrival of Ghana's first female president. This one excites me personally. just the fact that I can just say that it's nice to see that Ghana has got a female vice president. That's very hopeful if you're watching this morning. But Doc, I'll come to you. Honorable talks about decentralization, where an MC or a DC sits and they're looking up in Accra. The decentralization, where really, who should form the integral part of it? Like, is it the people that makes it effective at the local level, or it will be the political party that has envisaged a certain level of development for the people at the local level? Who makes it possible?
I think it's a combination of both, because I tend to find it very intriguing that there are certain basic local problems, sometimes even building a public toilet facility that we wait for the central government to come and do it, right? You're waiting for the president to come and commission a market at the local level. I mean, it doesn't mean that a president cannot grace such an occasion with his or her presence, but there are certain problems that are local that the people closest to it should be the ones addressing it and dealing with it. And the political party at the local level, those who are either appointed to man these local government agencies, as well as the people themselves, who are the people who feel the impact, whether positive or negative, of local problems, should be the ones who make it work. So if I live in Kwapong and I'm facing a local problem, I don't have to wait to communicate that to my MP for the entire constituency, or try and get the attention of a minister, or try and get the attention of the presidency. My traditional ruler is there. My assembly man or woman is there. And so these, for me, should be your first respondents to your local problems. But one thing that makes decentralization work is, it's not just the administrative decentralization where you've created local government units. It also works when the local governments are empowered where there's what we call fiscal decentralization, that they also have some kind of autonomy over money issues. So are they able to even levy some basic taxes? Are they able to raise and spend their own monies at that local level? I think that helps. But as Honorable said, if you're going to wait for the District Assembly Common Fund, it immobilizes you or it demobilizes you as an effective unit of local government.
Right, you're still watching the Independence Day special of the AM show, and this morning we've got Honorable Stephen Asamoah-Boateng, who is former Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, in studio with us. Dr. John Osae-Kwapong as well has been with us all through. Earlier, we also had Dr. Osae-Kwapong, if you didn't know now, is Quality Assurance and Institutional Effectiveness at Ashesi University and also a fellow with CDD.